Well, hello everybody. I was not expecting to do this. This is a very last minute thing. If you're watching the replay, welcome. I thought I'd do a watch along to Blackmagic's announcement that they've got coming up today. They call it an Atem Mini update, and I believe there's going to be some camera updates in there as well, according to some of the stuff that they've been tweeting out. So I thought, I always watch the Blackmagic stuff, and Grant does a great job about talking about the new products, but I thought I usually create videos afterwards demystifying some of the stuff that's been said and explaining how you can use certain features. So I thought, why not just do it live? We'll do a watch along. So I've got a nice little setup here where I can be in the corner and we can watch the update as it goes out, and I'll talk over it a little bit, and we'll listen to Grant explain the parts, and then I'll sort of give my opinion and my views as to what we see, because I really have no idea what to expect from this. I have no idea what to expect from this announcement. There's been no leaks or anything. I'm not gonna lie, I checked Twitter. I thought, are there any people that know anything? So I thought this is a little bit of fun. We'll do this together. Who have we got? Let me know where you guys are watching from. We've got Wilmer saying it's a good idea, thank you very much, and also I can put your comments up on screen as well. So if you have any questions, make sure in the YouTube live tag me in the question, so like tag my username, so then I can see it and I can put your comment on screen. And also, if you haven't already, please do share this broadcast out. If you know that there are your followers on Twitter or anywhere like that want to find out about these ATEM updates first, but also get them explained by someone who uses the ATEM line all the time, I'll do my best to share out this broadcast. Where are you watching from? We've got, this is fantastic, watching from the US, says Brian. Awesome. We are minutes away. In fact, it should be starting any second, so I'm going to get my audio meters up here so that we can bring the levels up on the live stream as well. But it should be starting any second. I wonder what they've got installed. This used to be me when Apple did broadcast their announcements. I'm not really interested in Apple announcements now. I don't find them entertaining, or I don't even think they release great products. Right, I'm going to shut up now.
We've got some really exciting products to show you today. We have a whole new camera, so there's going to be some really interesting things to talk about. But first, I'd like to start with Atem Mini. You know, the Atem Mini customers are doing some really amazing work.
So showing the Atem Mini Pro at the moment.
Atem Mini just has so many different uses, and it's because it's so powerful.
Can you guys all
but it's
hear
often
okay
used on
and see
location,
okay? Let me know.
and the internet connectivity is really tough when you're mobile, because you've got to find someone to plug the Ethernet into, and that's often not possible. So we've been really working hard on this problem, and what we've got is a new software update that lets you tether your mobile phone to the Atem Mini.
Whoa!
Now it supports all the Atem Mini Pro
Straight
models,
in
and that's
there.
because they're the ones that actually do the live streaming. It
No
supports
messing
both
around from
Android and
Grant.
Apple phones. You pretty much just plug the phone into the USB connection on the Atem Mini and it works. The Atem Mini Pro will automatically recognize the phone when it's plugged in. There's no settings, you just plug in the phone and it works. So let me show you how this works.
This was like 1 minute in. This is
Pro
why I love Grant.
Here is set up to live stream
1 minute
YouTube.
in, he's
and on the
already
rear monitor,
said
I've got
you can now
the
stream
web
by
browser with the
tethering your
YouTube
phone.
display in it, so it's live streaming through. Now the Atem Mini Pro here is connected to the internet via its Ethernet connection. One thing that's really important also to know about before we do this is you have to activate the tethering on your phone to actually make this work. So I've got a phone here.
So for those of you, just to explain this while Grant's going through it, you can now plug in your iPhone to the USB on the back of the Atem Mini. And I believe he said Atem Mini Pro. So you can plug a USB into the back of the Atem Mini Pro and use tethering to now stream from the Atem Mini.
Overhead shot of that. But there it is. The little tethering icons come up. It's a bit different. I've got an older phone, so this phone's a newer one, so it's got a slightly different indicator. Now, the Atem Mini can see the phone, and if you look on the multi-view, you can see there's a little phone icons appeared on the streaming
says, but I need the USB
view
for other things.
So what we do now is we'll unplug the Ethernet and see how it switches across. So if I unplug the Ethernet, you'll see the icon on the multi-view is actually grey. So I've unplugged the Ethernet here, and what you'll see is it'll switch across. Now, you can see the icon's gone red, and it's flashed the on-air indicator, and that shows that it's now switched over, and it's live streaming. And you see there's a little bit of interruption to the live stream, but it's done a clean switch over, and now it's running with the phone data and not the Ethernet, because the Ethernet's not even plugged in. So let's switch back.
This is cool.
So we'll plug the Ethernet back in. And we'll
this is cool because basically this is like a non-computer setup. So you could just take the Atem Mini, load all your graphics and everything on, take your phone, and then
you'll see now it'll switch
that's it.
back.
You can stream.
The phone icon's disappeared from the streaming status indicator, and it's gone back and it's switched across, and now we're streaming back on the Ethernet. It also does something that computers don't do very well, and you just saw it. Basically, that's changing between mobile data and Ethernet. The Atem Mini Pro will keep streaming when the network changes. You can switch it backwards and forwards.
Wow.
So if you have an Ethernet problem, you can plug your phone in. But a lot of times, software applications actually need to be quit and relaunched, because they'll actually connect through one of the services and they don't really switch across.
So it's like
Atem Mini doesn't need to do that. It'll just switch live, even while you're streaming, and you just saw how it did that. Because we've got full control. It runs Blackmagic OS, so we've got full control over the whole process of how we connect. So
I'm going to comment on this in a
second
once you finish this section.
To think about with this phone tethering stuff is the mobile data speed. Phones can vary a lot in data rate.
Yeah.
I mean, every internet connection can do that. Also, the data rate will go up with frame rate. So there's a lot of things to consider. Also, 5G phones are faster than 4G phones. So if there's not enough speed to do the live stream through your phone, there are some options.
Awesome.
You can switch
and
to a
I'll
lower
explain
quality.
That in a second.
You can also switch to a lower frame rate. And so lower frame rates are okay, of course, because all the inputs will just convert. So even if you're running 1080p 60 and you wanted to, say, stream at 24p because the data rate is too much at 60p, you can switch the switcher over to 24p. All the inputs will just convert and it'll all just work. So it's really good. So I think this mobile data will be really helpful to people. It's actually in a new software update. It's called ATEM Update 8.6, and it'll be available on our website today.
Update.
We'll post that. It supports mobile data on Atem Mini Pro and Atem Mini Pro ISO models, because they're the ones that are got the streaming built in. And also it'll be available free of charge. So you just be able to download the update and add that feature.
So I think you just answered that.
Okay,
I didn't catch exactly what
the
he said.
Atem Mini family as a whole.
ISO.
Yeah, the Atem Mini's been really well received. It's got a lot of professional features, and these are not dumbed down switches, but they're true professional switches, for important work, even though they are HDMI. People have used the switches in a lot of ways we never expected, which has been quite a lot of fun to see. I mean, some remarkable ways. It's quite shocking. So we thought, really, how far could we push this design? We wanted to try and we were sort of thinking, could we build a really much more powerful model?
So he's just going through it at the moment. Wow, he said powerful
like, really, how far could we push this? Could we build a high-end switcher, but kind of in an Atem Mini design?
Put your predictions in the chat now.
We've been working on this for a while, but it was a challenge we kind of set ourselves. There's a bunch of challenges. Could we make it affordable enough? Could we keep the advanced electronics
predictions
cool
now? You've probably got a minute
noise,
to get
which is really important because often these switches are used in the same environment with the cameras. So you don't want the fan noise being picked up. Was it even really possible to fit a big switcher into an Atem Mini design? So, well, not fit exactly. It has grown a little bit in size, but
new model.
We've been able to do it. We've pulled it off, and the new model is called Atem Mini Extreme. It's dramatically more powerful. I'll bring one out and show you.
Atem Mini Extreme.
I've got one here. So
let's see how big it is.
Here it is. It's quite big, as you can see. It's a much bigger switcher.
Oh my god, that looks beautiful though. Look at that.
Try and
Extreme, so it's following in.
So it's got
they've got other products called Extreme.
A lot more control.
Look at that, and so many buttons on the front.
So if you're looking for a more powerful Atem Mini, then this is it.
And guys,
really gone for it.
I've just spotted some macro buttons on there.
I'll start by showing you the back. Let me.
Right, that's the first thing I just spotted on there. There's some.
Let's have a look at the rear.
I would say some programmable macro buttons on the front of that. And
so there are a lot more connections.
HDMI inputs, so 2 HDMI outputs.
DC
Look at that, HDMI
now it includes
1
a bigger
and
power
2.
supply.
We've been asking for 2 USBs.
There's gigabit Ethernet built in.
It's got a USB-A and a USB-B as well.
So I'm just looking at the picture there. It's got the streaming built in, so it's a bit like the Atem Mini Pro
headphone output
models, a bigger version of Atem Mini Pros.
I don't see a headphone output on there.
So you don't need any external streaming software because that's built in. It supports YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Vimeo, and more, just like the Atem Mini Pro models do.
There is a headphone output.
It has 2 USB connections.
I've seen it. Headphone output.
This is important if you want to, maybe you want to use a webcam while you're recording to a USB disc at the same time, or say if you want to do recording while you're live streaming via the phone, because it supports the phone tethering as well as the Atem Mini Pro now does. Of course, you can still connect a USB hub, so if you want more devices, but I think it's really nice having 2 USB connections built in. It's much simpler.
So now you can take the feed to your computer for things like Zoom and things like that, and record at the same time.
And it has 2 independent HDMI outputs. Now these work like aux outputs, so you can route different video sources to them.
This is huge. This is massive.
And this model has 8 inputs as well. Obviously, it's twice the number of inputs.
This is exactly what everyone was asking for.
And that's really nice if you're using if you can't afford camera operators and you want to just use more camera angles, so you can just add more cameras. Now each input has a separate standards converter.
Put your price
so you can have 8 different video standards plugged in. You just plug everything in and it works. The microphones are the same microphones work. There's now an additional headphone output, And the headphones are proper monitoring output, so it's on a separate audio monitoring bus.
Oh, that's nice.
So let's check out the front again.
So
in fact, what we'll do is we'll plug it in, which is a bit of an ordeal with so many connections. Now I've got 8 hyperdecks that we're using as sources here. So let me just plug in. I'll actually sit it on top and start plugging away. Let's plug in some power and I'll plug in the network.
That's beautiful.
And I'll plug my video output. And I'll go through the inputs because there's quite a lot of inputs here. So sorry, it takes a moment because there's so much to plug in. It's the problem with the bigger switcher that's got so many connections. I'll get rid of my
some of you saying 1200, 1600.
Actually, I'll position it so you can see on the overhead camera because we've got a camera overhead here. Now I've got a whole bunch of extra inputs because of the number of sources. I've got an extra output which we'll plug in because it's got the 2 video outs. And I've got 4 more inputs. So I've got quite a lot of cables.
It is. I'm just getting close. Like, what's your initial thoughts,
so these are all
guys,
hyperdecks playing back these different camera angles of a cooking show. But camera 1 is actually a pocket camera just over there. So there we go. So we've got everything plugged in.
This is everything I've wanted in a switcher, says Tommy.
And we've got all nice and straight, so that overhead camera looks pretty good.
2500.
So one of the first things you can see now, I've plugged in the multi-view. I've plugged, well, both video outputs and all inputs. You can see the multi-view is a little different, so I'll get into that in a moment. But let's have a look around the front panel and see what's on there. So we've got it now running with all 8 inputs connected, so I can just switch between all those sources.
I mean, this will still fit in a bag. This is the main thing. And
also there's the smaller source buttons over here, so you've got like 2 media players and a few more things there. Now. You can still change between cut and auto, so you can still do the transitions, just like you can with the Atem Mini. Of course, auto is the sort of industry standard way of selecting a transition versus a cut. Any Atem customer would already know that.
Total shock.
Now it's got the same transition duration buttons, so it's half a second to 2 seconds, and they're located just over here, so you can change the durations of the transitions.
And
they've also got a fade to black
ISO? Will it do ISO recordings?
Still
it
has that.
So
yeah, it looks very similar to an Atem Mini.
Announce that.
Now the transition selection is located above the auto button over here, and we've got more of those. So you can set to different things. So like, for example, at the moment it's set to mix.
I hope it does.
So when you do a transition, it'll be a mix. But you can also do other transitions like dip, for example. There it is. And you've got like 6 wipes on there. There's more buttons for different transitions.
So you've got 6 wipes,
including horizontal, vertical,
let me know your
thoughts
so far. I mean, it looks beautiful. There's a lot of buttons on there. I was trying to, in these overhead shots, I'm just trying to study what buttons are there. And there's some number buttons at the top.
And the DV transitions on the buttons directly
which
include push right,
I mean, I said at the beginning, I have a feeling that they could be.
Switch back to mix and
I just guessed because I thought I saw it say macro at the top.
You've got a few more transitions.
When I took a look again, it doesn't.
There's also upgraded video output controls because we've got more sources now. So the HDMI video outputs are actually like aux outputs, so you can route video to them. So output HDMI 1 has settings on the control panel here, and so you can see the location of where they are there. Now you can route sources out using the Atem software control, where you get access to both video outs and you can use them both like auxes. But you can view it on the front panel here. So let's have a quick look. So, I'm looking at, in fact, if I can switch the video across, I can see this. So that's the second video output I've got on the back there. So I can now switch the sources between the camera inputs to that video output live. And you notice that, it's basically a clean feed of the video sources, and it's very, the switching's very clean. Now you can connect this to a video projector, and one of those inputs could be a slideshow, and you can switch to the video projector from the front here. So it's almost like doing a separate live switch.
I was going to say, you kind of got a switcher.
Also, Video Hub control panels work. So that's nice. They've also got a multi-view output, but we'll set it back to program because we're actually using a 2-monitor display. So you can see you've got a lot of really nice controls there.
There's a lot of
Now it's got the same streaming controls on the top right of the panel there. The same on and off air controls.
The worship space says, I love it.
You've also got the same record and stop controls.
What you're seeing,
there's also some extra key controls which we've got over here.
And don't forget to hit the like button as well.
You have the key 1 and downstream key controls on there now. And it's nice to have a downstream key button. So if you're using a logo in the downstream key, you've got that. Now again, all the keys are all available in the Atem software control.
So there's a downstream key button to turn on and off.
Now the other thing we've got on the front panel is a bunch of macro buttons. All Atem Mini models have macros. But the Atem Mini Extreme has 6 macro buttons on the front panel that you can fire them by pushing one of those buttons. And there they are there.
Yeah.
It makes them much more accessible. You can set up really complex effects and just trigger them just on one of those buttons.
For those of you that don't have Stream Decks, that's great.
Now the DVEs, the Atem Mini Extreme has 2 DVEs. So you can do like a 2-up views for interviewing people. There's front panel buttons with some presets for you. So you can select some of the DVE buttons, and I've got, I can select the DVE on there. You can see I've got, that's the 2 up. I've got
DVE, you can have basically have 2 picture-in-picture now. The Atem Mini, you could only have 1 picture-in-picture. So now with the DVEs, you've got 2. So you can do 2. That's cool. So
that's pretty nice.
This is
and
massive.
You also, again, get full control of the DVEs from the Atem software control. But these preset buttons make working with DVEs really fast. So,
so imagine interviews where you're bringing in remote guests.
Now, the other thing we've got is a select bus. Powerful switches have what they call a select bus on the control panel. Now, what it does, it allows you to control the sources into internal processing, such as DVEs. So let me show you how this works. So say, for example, something like the dip transition, which I'll select over there. Now, we were using a color generator. When we did this before, there's a source for that dip, and we were using a color generator. That's why it was white. So when we did a dip, it went to, whoops, I've got to select order. So when I do a transition, you can see it was white. Because it was using a color generator, and that color generator is white. But what it allows us to do is we can change the source that we're going to use for that. Now the sources are along the top.
Some people have put their suggestions in.
And the destinations are along the bottom. So the destinations include inputs to keys, DVEs, the DVE video sources, the dip source, and a lot more. So the dip is along the bottom here. So let's have a look.
Something like an internal router.
So that's the dip source. So we select that on the bottom row, and then you can see that it's showing the color generator on the top row. And I think we probably picked that up on the top camera. So you can see that. So we could change it to something else. So for example, if we change it to bars, now when I do a transition, whoops, I changed it to black. There's bars.
Hold on.
So there you go. So now I changed the dip source.
So this is nice because right now, if you want to change the settings for what your upstream key is using, or your downstream key, or your DVEs, you have to go into the palettes and do that. Or if you have a Stream Deck, you can have this on a button. But to have it on the physical Atem is really nice. They've given you more buttons so that you've got more control with the surface. And of course, that means that you don't necessarily need to carry around a computer, although you'll still want to.
So now what's really interesting is I've selected DVE1 on the lower row, and you can notice that the top row is now showing that that's the input, one of the camera inputs is going to that DVE. And what's really interesting is that they went red. What this means is the DVE is on air, and it's a warning to show you that anything you change here will be seen by the viewers.
You reckon $700?
So if I turn the DVE on and off, then you can see the color changes back to white. So you can see it's like a tally on the select bus, and let you know that if you change anything, people are going to notice it. So I think that's really nice to have that. So let's select color bars.
So what I've seen so far with features,
color bars, I can select some
I'll be happy if this is
the camera numbers are over here,
anywhere near or under $2,000 US. There's a lot of 2 DVEs, 2 media players.
When I change the input, the DVE input changes. So the select bus makes this stuff much faster because you can really route all the sources. It's the same workflows you see on really big switches, but now we have it here right on the front panel. It's really fast and it's really simple to use. So I'll just turn my DVEs back off again. Now the other thing we've got in Atem Mini Extreme is camera control right on the front panel. The buttons are located just above the inputs, so it allows really quick camera adjustments. So if I cut to camera 1, we have a Pocket Cinema Camera 6K connected to input number 1.
This, of course, will be Blackmagic only cameras.
Which is just here. Now this camera has studio features, including lens control, tally, and a color corrector. So we can control that from the switcher. So if I go between camera 1, if you can get a close-up of the screen on the back, you can see as I'm switching to the camera, and back again, I've got the tally light coming on and off on the LCD on the back.
So you've already got camera control within the Atem Mini Pro ISO and the Pro in the software, but now it looks like they're doing it over the actual hardware.
Which is iris, because if you're using outside, you're doing outdoor shooting, the lighting conditions can change, so you can track those lighting conditions. So
that's nice.
You can see there I'm changing the iris, but there's also other camera settings you can control as well. So you just need to select the override buttons, and those 4 buttons above here, if you can see that. You can see them on the overhead camera. There's you
can't go too high arrows here for the larger format Atems.
But these 4 buttons will override those up and down buttons, and you can say, for example, we can press gain or.
Micah Brown likes this feature. He goes, "No way." I mean, camera control as physical buttons is nice.
You got to be fairly quick.
In their bigger range, you have a completely separate unit.
Now there's buttons for overriding the levels for shutter speed, black, level, and focus. The focus one's actually quite interesting. Because if you, I'll show you basically how this works. If we just focus and really make the camera go out of focus.
Oh,
there it is there. So I've adjusted that camera way out of focus. Now what you can do is you can press and hold the focus button to trigger the autofocus in the camera. So if I just press and hold that button, you'll see now it'll trigger the autofocus in the camera. So it's a really great way of really fast using the camera's features itself to do the focus. Now the camera control is really simple, but it's surprisingly powerful. you have full camera control, obviously, in the ATEM software control.
That's so nice.
It's quite useful to have all this on the front panel. And of course, you can also use one of the ATEM camera control panels, if you really want to go for it. Now, the audio controls is another set of features on the front panel. They're very similar to the other ATEM Mini models. They're located above the inputs along here.
I would use that
with
focus
more
button
inputs. We still have the full audio processing on all the inputs. So each input has audio processing it has a compressor, 6-band parametric EQ, limiter, expander, and more. That's on all the inputs. And there's also now what's been added is headphone controls for the headphone output, and they've been added on the panel here. So you've got level up and down. You can set the levels up and down. You've also got a mute and a reset as well. So that's nice for headphone control right from there.
That's cool.
Now, even though that's the front panel, we haven't really described what's inside yet. Up until now, we've really only talked about the front panel controls. But the really big increase in power in this switcher is the internally. So what I'll do is I'll change over to the Atem Mini software control, and we can check this out. So, well, the first thing we can actually talk about is the new multi-view. So what I need to do is I'll plug in using USB into the software because we haven't got a connection up here.
Glad I waited says, what's that?
USB, and we'll plug in into one of the 2 USB ports that we've got on the back.
Yeah, so
now we should have the.
Let me know in the chat if you've already got a Pro or an ISO or even a Mini.
Are
you watching this and thinking about upgrading? I know I am.
And so you can see the multi-view is a little different to the Atem Mini Pro.
Thanks for all the likes, guys, on the video. Really
We've actually taken the multi-view from the Atem Constellation 8K. It's our best multi-view by far.
Okay, new multi-view then.
It's an incredible multi-view. So this is why we wanted to really bring that across. So we've taken it from our top switcher. It still includes the audio meters on all the views. It still includes custom labels on the views, which the other Atem Minis can do. The Atem Mini Pros, sorry.
So this is basically a 16-grid multi-view that you can
But now you can also select the number of views. It supports up to 16 views in total. So let me show you how this works. So over in the Atem software control, all we have to do is go to the settings and select multi-view.
This is so
here's
powerful.
Our multi-view settings over here. So if I want to change to 16 views, for example, I just have to click on this little icon here, and it'll now change to 16 views. So I can also change sources. So for example, I could change, well, actually that's already on the audio status. So, or I could change it to, anything I really like.
Got the original Mini.
I've got a color generator.
Wish I could
Number
upgrade.
I have to do it on color generator 2. So you can see it's quite nice. And
I'm holding with the Pro ISO because I only rocked
my program view, which
inputs.
I have there.
Yeah, I suppose if you don't need
views
the
is really
inputs,
great with those 2 HDMI video outputs because you can use it to monitor setup.
It's not just about the inputs, the number of inputs. The amount of features that are in this is incredible.
So one monitor has the 16 sources on the multi-view, and the other one has the program view. So that's a really nice combination to have because you can use those 2 outputs to really give you that big program view, and then you've got tons of views on the multi-view. Now, the Atem Mini Pro also has a media player with 20 still frames. With the latest software update that we did on the Atem Mini Pros, they even retain those still frames between a power cycle. But with the Atem Mini Extreme, you now get 2 media players. So let's take a look at that. Nice. So if we switch to the media play page, I'll get rid of this.
That was definitely one of my requests. 2 media players makes things a lot easier. I would love.
You can see I've got the 2 media players.
Media player in
and we can load a still into media player number 1.
But I think this is just stills.
So I've just loaded a still into there, and I can load another graphic into media player number 2. In fact, the default media players have already set up to use slots 1 and 2.
They haven't set a price yet. Alex,
so now you have 2 video sources into the switcher, and you can see them on the multi-view. In fact, the multi-view by default shows the 2 media players there. Now, previously we showed you using DV preset buttons to turn on the 2 multi-views. We've got, DVEs. We've got 2 DVEs in the switcher. This is great for interviewing multiple people. You can show like 2 different interviewers at the same time, so it's really nice. Yeah. So let me show you the DVEs in the switcher.
For remote interviews, this is going to be amazing.
The palettes, I can see I've got my upstream keys, and there's the DVE. And you can see I can turn on that keyer. So there it is there. And I can move the DVEs around. This is where you do the adjustments.
Thanks very much, Micah. I appreciate your comment.
Click it there, and you can see you can position those all over the place.
So this is what we're used to at the moment. One DVE, or as you guys, a lot of people call it picture-in-picture. Really nice. In the Atem Mini Extreme, you've got 2 now.
DVEs built in, and that's just really flexible. But with so many inputs, we also thought we could do a lot more. More inputs actually allow us to do some pretty exciting things. So we've actually included SuperSource in the Atem Mini Extreme.
Wow.
Now what SuperSource is, if you don't know, because you haven't used some of our bigger switcher.
I'll let Grant explain it,
bigger switches. SuperSource is 4 DVEs in a multi-layer compositing engine. So what this means is you actually get 4 video sources as separate DVEs in a layer stack. So you basically get a 4 DVE kind of layering engine, plus you've got the 2 DVEs that are actually built in there. So that's 6 DVEs in total in the switcher.
That is
there's also, the SuperSource has support for a background graphic as well as a foreground graphic. Now a background graphic goes behind all those DVEs, whereas a foreground graphic goes over the front of the DVEs.
Okay, so I'll just dip Grant here and explain, because we use SuperSource in some of our bigger studios in London. We've got an ATEM 4ME and an ATEM 8K. And it's a game changer. You can basically imagine news broadcasts where you're used to seeing sort of 4 live feeds or 4 interviewers, guests up on the screen at once, and then a nice animated background in the background. You can do all of that with SuperSource. So for that feature to be brought into an ATEM Mini, that's huge. It's massive.
So what we do is we'll start by selecting SuperSource on the front panel. We have a dedicated button on the front panel for SuperSource. There it is there. And now it's basically by default it's a 4-box setup, as you can see there. Now this is the SuperSource. It's not even the normal DVEs, but you can also change it in the ATEM software control. So what you do is you go into the SuperSource palette, which there it is there.
SuperSource is honestly
and you can see I've got a bunch of different interesting combinations you can select. And you can show the arrangement positions, and you can set all the inputs to the SuperSource DVEs. So you can see there. You can change the different boxes and then do the controls and change the inputs.
Thanks for liking the video, guys. I see your likes. Thanks very much.
And you can also load in a graphic. So, for example, if I go to
give it a like.
The media player and load in a foreground graphic, I can now change that.
Grant's about to display what I was saying with like the newsy look, the sort of Sky News, Fox News, whatever, where they have multiple people up and a background. So this is what you can now do in an ATEM Mini.
It's made that graphic the background. I actually want the graphic to be the foreground. So let's do that, because it's got borders on it, and the borders actually now become the DVE borders. So you can see there it's all lined up and it looks really nice. Now, you can spend a lot of time getting all this perfect. We've actually got the graphic. This graphic just supports the default SuperSource layout. But really the trick here is to line up all the DVEs so they match the graphic. And we made this graphic to suit the default SuperSource layout, so we didn't have to spend time doing it here. But you can really see how powerful that is. Now, SuperSource is really separate to those 2 main DVEs. So that means they're still available if you need to use them for something else. Although I'm not sure how much stuff you can really put on the screen at one time. Now, the other thing we've done with Atem Mini Extreme is we have 8 inputs. So we can do a lot more with the keyers. So what 8 inputs mean is that Atem Mini Extreme is big enough to actually do virtual sets. So we now have 4 Atem Advanced chroma keys in this switcher, which means you can do 4 separate chroma keys at the same time. They're all completely independent. So that's basically means you could have 4 separate cameras that could have a dedicated chroma key each. So you can use basically the 8 inputs to do virtual set, to create virtual sets, 4 live cameras over 4 live backgrounds.
So this has been a really big feature that people have asked for. So what Grant's saying here is you've now got 4 individual chroma keys. So what that basically means is you could have camera 1 chroma keying a background, and then when you cut to camera 2, which is a different angle, you can have a different background on it. So you can start to make virtual sets. So, like I could have a camera in front of me that chroma keys a virtual set, and then another camera pointing this way and a different angle. So this is pretty big. 4 chroma keys now.
Yeah, I'll close the SuperSource one. Well, actually, we kind of showed you this before because we used it for the DVDs, but there they are there. See, they're 4 independent keys. Now, what that means is you can control these with macros, and you can switch the media players into the keys. So what that means is you could create a fixed camera virtual set all in the Atem Mini Extreme without any extra hardware. So each camera would have a pre-rendered background, so you could basically put that behind the camera, so you can key the camera over a green screen and then put that background in the back. And if you don't move the camera, you don't really need a live motion virtual set. You can just render out some still frames from a 3D model of a set and put them behind each camera, and then use the macros to switch the media players into the keys. So it's incredibly powerful having 4 independent chroma keys. I think it's going to make the whole virtual set thing
I notice
possible.
a lot of your prices have now gone up. Everyone's now saying above 2K for sure.
So it's really quite
2,500 says Dave.
Now, of course, the big question then, what about bigger work? What happens if you want to take it even further? What happens if you want to build a bigger studio? So the Atem Mini Extreme is really the perfect match for the Atem 1ME Advanced panel. In many ways, that became our yardstick of how big this switcher should be. Let's just make it perfect for an Atem 1ME Advanced panel. It's a totally professional setup. It unlocks a lot of the power in the switcher. There's dedicated buttons. I've got a few slides here that you can see. It's got dedicated buttons for all the switcher functions. The design is a very traditional broadcast switcher, so it's great for training and education. So using that Atem 1ME Advanced panel is a really good way to use the switcher. The Atem Mini ME Advanced panels behind me are connected to the Atem Mini Extreme here.
So just to make you guys aware, the ATEM Advanced panel is basically the control surface for a lot of Blackmagic's higher vision mixers. It also works with the ATEM Mini, and so Grant's saying, because you've got an ATEM Mini that is so powerful now, it makes sense to also have a control surface like this controlling it.
There's a shift button, so you can switch to another 10 sources. You can also see there's a nice big T-bar fader handle. It's got direct access to the downstream keys on the right-hand side there. You can see there's a select bus.
So yeah, what Grant's showing right now is a control surface for the ATEM range. It's not a new product, just for anyone in the comments who's thinking this is a new product. It's basically a controller that now works with the ATEM Mini. It also works with the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and sorry, I should say it works with the ATEM Extreme. It works for the Pro, the ISO, and the Extreme.
Now it's got a really large system control LCD. Gives you really fast access to all the settings. You get a joystick for moving those DVEs around for both the Super Source and the normal DVEs. So I think the Atem Mini Extreme is a really perfect size for this panel, and it adds a completely professional workflow
estimations.
So really, this switcher
Sack says, Alex, this is great news. Jet says $2,399 US.
And you wouldn't even know it's an Atem Mini.
Alex reckons between $1,000 and $1,500 US.
Also, we have the Atem camera control panel. It's got dedicated control for all the cameras. That's also perfectly matched.
Grant's just going through some of the other products that can work with the Atem Mini. So while he does that, maybe let me recap what we've seen so far. So they've announced the Atem Mini, don't know if it's the Pro Extreme, I think it's just called the Atem Mini Extreme. 8 inputs, 2 HDMI outputs, 2 USB outputs, a headphone jack which also has separate headphone monitoring, so it means that you can send an audio mix to the output but also then solo channels, and so the output won't hear what you're listening to in your headphones. You can have 2 different mixes, which is great. And I'm sure I've missed a bunch of other stuff as well. That's just the externals. A bunch of buttons as well on the externals, but the internals you've got multiple media players, 2 media players now, Super Source, a bunch of stuff. I'm keeping an eye on this feed to see when he moves on to something else. I don't feel like you guys need to listen too much about the camera control unit that they've got there. Let's get your feedback.
Really, let's summarize what we have.
Someone says, you know when a Pro Extreme is going to come
out. Each input has standards conversion. You just plug anything in and it works. The audio mixer supports processing on all those inputs, which means every HDMI input has a separate limiter, noise gate compressor, and EQ.
It seems like they're building
There's 4 upstream Atem advanced chroma keys. They're the good keys, the most advanced keys we have in Atem switches. There's 2 downstream keys for titles. There's 2 media players for graphics and titles.
This is huge.
There's 2 independent DVEs for picture-in-picture effects. There's a Super Source with another 4 additional DVEs and a multi-layer processor. There's a select bus on the front panel. The multi-view supports up to 16 different views. Both HDMI outputs have source routing, so they work as aux outputs. There's a separate headphone connection with audio monitoring bus, so you've got separate audio monitoring control of that.
And sharing
it's really basically like a 1ME HD version of our Constellation switcher. It's basically the best 1ME switcher we have. Yeah. It's way more powerful than actually our 1ME SDI models. So it's really exciting. It's an insane switcher. So it's very exciting. Now, the Atem Mini Extreme will be available now for $995. I reckon it's going to be really exciting to see how people use it. Who knows what kind of new workflows are going to be possible. Particularly, say, things like the virtual sets and things like that. So it's really exciting. Now, that's not all we've done. We have an ISO model of our Atem Mini Pro. So we thought it'd be really nice to do an ISO model of the Atem Mini Extreme. And we do have that. It's called Atem Mini Extreme ISO, and it records all 8 inputs and the program video. Now, this model features a massive record engine.
Just to duck on that.
It basically records 9 streams in total.
Atem Mini Extreme and now an Atem Mini Extreme
so you can record and open up your whole live production as an edit. It means you can fix bad edits, replace shots, and add color correction later. You can even trigger the record in the Blackmagic Pocket cameras, because those Pocket cameras support Blackmagic RAW files, so you can link them to the edit. And that's how you can actually do an Ultra HD
for anyone
film
who's asking
workflow
about the difference between the ISO and the Extreme, it's basically
the
ISO will record all of the inputs individually at HyperDeck high quality.
So obviously we
so you're going to get 8 input files plus your mixed program output as well, so 9 recordings. And I'm going to guess that's going on to the SSD drive as well. So you're going to need a fast SSD drive for it to work, because
you can see it's kind of quite simple. It's very similar.
Oh, there we go.
Basically, it's the same. Actually, I'll put it above it so you can see both models compared there.
The names just keep growing.
So you can see it's basically
the Pro out of this one.
It looks the same as the Atem Mini Extreme, except this is Atem Mini Extreme ISO. So we'll plug it in, we'll transfer the connections across to this guy here.
There's going to be
I'll put it on
huge
top because I think that might be the easiest way to transfer the connections. A little bit undignified for the switcher that's below.
Right, so where Grant plugs this in, I'll just finish off about
across.
the ISO. So you basically you're going to get nine video files when the ISO records on here. So one thing that I'll be interested to know, and I would imagine that you are going to need a pretty fast SSD to record onto, because they're going to record at hyperdeck high, which is about 70 megabits per second, times 9. Yeah, you're going to need a decent SSD otherwise it will start dropping frames.
Plug that. Switches.
But that's an incredible feature.
Now, and then we'll plug in.
Imagine, if I was to do that in the studios that we have in London, I would need 9 hyperdeck studio minis to record all of those inputs and the program output.
Well, that alone is costing you camera.
£5,000, £5,000, sorry.
There. So you can see it's all lit up, and it looks very similar to the.
Hey Levi, thanks for joining.
My audio there. So you can see
I'll try.
Basically, it's the same as the Atem Mini Extreme. Except
I will try my best to do the audio levels better. I apologize.
Similar multi-view, everything's there. It's got some different setups in it because it's a different switcher. So now what I'll do is I'll plug in a flash disk, which I've got here. I've got 2 USB ports, so I can plug in the second one. So I'll plug it in there.
Looks like just a Samsung SSD.
Now, because it's 9 streams, you do need a decent flash disk. Some flash disks aren't as fast as they say they are. They'll do bursts at high speed, but they won't sustain it. So make sure you're using a good quality flash disk. Now, what we'll do is we'll go to the record palette, because I've got to show you that. So it's in the output menu here. If we can cut across the UI, I'll turn off the live stream. Now, you can see it's the same palette as the Atem Mini Pro models use. So what we need to do is set the ISO recording on. So this is the control here. So if you turn that on, now will enable the ISO, and you can start recording. Now I can do that on the front panel, which I will do. You can do it from the UI as well. And there it is now. Now I'm recording to the disk. I can change between some of the different sources, do some cuts.
And remember, because this is the ISO as well, it's recording the 9 video files, but it's also recording the DaVinci files, so you can go back and very easily and quickly make edits on what you produce live.
Got a nice fast transition there. Now it's worth mentioning that you can use a USB hub and use multiple disks. If you're recording with multiple disks, it'll move from disk to disk as each disk fills up, so you can record forever if you keep adding empty disks. You can also use a Blackmagic multi-dock. It's 4 SSD disks on a single USB port, so that's really nice. Now, while it's recording,
they haven't announced the camera yet. Who asked that? Alexander. That will come in a bit, I would imagine.
I'm using the USB connection, so I have webcam coming into the computer. So let's launch an app. I'll just use
there we go. Just to pick up on that, because you've got the 2 USB-Cs on the back, you can record and take in a feed to something like Zoom at the same time.
So what I've got going on now is I've got a recording going on while I've got webcam source. And also, let's start streaming to YouTube. So if I turn on streaming, now I'll run the streaming. And so now I'm actually live streaming to YouTube, and it's now really heavily loaded up. I'm doing 9 streams of recording because I'm doing an ISO recording. I've got USB webcam going on the screen here, and I've also got live streaming to YouTube all at the same time. So now if I do some more transitions, I just keep doing that.
Grant wasn't lying when he said this is more powerful than their SDI version.
What I can do is I can now stop recording, and we can go and have a look and see what it looks like on the computer. So I'll stop recording, and I'll stop streaming as well, and I'll close this. Now I'll take my disk, and I'll plug it into the computer so we can have a look what it looks like on the computer. So
Jet just says, I just got my... Is that Jet? Oh no, JP says, I just got my Pro ISO yesterday.
Software control, so you can switch across.
Yeah, we feel for you.
Atem, I don't want to use that as a backup. So there it is there. So here's my disk that I've just recorded.
So Grant, if you're not aware of what the ISO features are, he's just going through some of the features of the ISO. They're exactly the same as the Atem Mini Pro ISO, but obviously instead of recording 4 inputs, you're now recording 8 inputs. So there on the screen is all of your 8 camera inputs in a folder. Then you've got all of your 8 audio sources as well. You've got the program mini or the program output, and you've also got the DaVinci file, which is basically like it logs all of the cuts that you're making while you're live and puts everything into a timeline, so you have a pre-rendered timeline ready to go after you have ended your live stream, let's say, and you can go and make tweaks to the cuts and the fades that you made in different positions. You can edit the video. If you made mistakes, you can correct those and then render out a higher quality version.
And do all kinds of different edits. And if I go in here, I can see I've got my ISO files in here. There's all my different camera views. So there's that's just the recording from that one camera. So it's all really nice. You can do all kinds of editing. So
thanks so much, by the way, for everyone who's been sharing this out. The views are climbing. I appreciate it. And for those of you that hit the like button, let me know in the comments what you think of this announcement so far. That for me, this is huge.
I can also use the sync bin, so I can see all the camera views. So if I go up to the sync bin up here, what I've now got is, go back to my master.
Just going over some of the DaVinci stuff at the moment, which probably is a good time for you guys to get your questions in the chat as well. So if you've got particular questions about what this model can do, maybe some of the things that Grant was talking about earlier about the Atem Mini Extreme or even the ISO model that he's demonstrating now, get your questions in. I'll do a little recap as well towards the end of this demonstration. I'm going to talk over this bit a little bit more because he's just going over some of the features of DaVinci, so that gives us time to reflect on what we've seen so far, which is the Atem Mini Extreme and the Atem Mini Extreme ISO. Two very large but incredibly powerful internally switches.
This switch will record 9 video streams all at the same time. It's an incredibly powerful model. It's very exciting. So the Atem Mini Extreme ISO is just starting production now. So it'll probably be appearing in about a week or so. It'll be priced at $1,295. And I can't wait to see how people sort of use it. I think it's going to be really exciting.
So $995 for the Extreme,
to our SDI range
and
our Blackmagic Web Presenter has been a real popular streaming solution, but it was quite limited. It was basically USB webcam only, and it was the webcam was only 720p. So we wanted to totally redesign this model, but we also wanted to reposition what it was used for. So it was more than just a simple redesign. We wanted the new model to be more focused on sort of high-end workflows and to work with our most powerful switches that we have. The Atem Mini in many ways can now handle the HDMI workflows. So we really wanted a newer model that was really designed for an SDI workflow only. We also needed a solution for Atem Television Studio and our Atem Constellation switches. So we've designed a whole new model.
A lot of people in the chat saying, we want the camera update.
I'll go across here and we've got a bit of space and I can show you. I'll bring the unit out. So here it is. Here it is here. You can see
so this is a new Blackmagic Web Presenter HD.
It's a whole new design. Basically, our thoughts were it's a bit like a television transmitter for the streaming age. It's kind of the philosophy we used when we designed it. It's way more advanced than the previous model and it has a lot more features. It removes a few of the features we don't need, like the HDMI input, because we don't need that now. But it's been designed specifically for high-end broadcast and live event work. So it's a much more sort of higher end. So we've repositioned it, and changed the underlying philosophy about what it's really now for.
So it sounds like I asked the question on one of my videos a while ago, when a Blackmagic going to add some of these features to their high-end switches, like the Atem 4ME, for example. This is the product to do it. It's going to enable you to live stream using those.
Down converter on the input. So you can take any HD or Ultra HD input and stream to it. It doesn't matter what the input video is, it just works. You'll see that there's also a loop. There's one loop 12G SDI output, so you can loop out to other equipment. And what that lets you do is you can build like an array of web presenters for multiple platforms, or even redundancy. For example, you could use the one web presenter for the YouTube primary stream and a separate web presenter for the YouTube secondary stream, and you can loop the SDI input across to all those different web presenters for the different platforms.
That's cool.
Gives you a lot of redundancy. Now, there's also a HDMI and a 3G SDI monitoring output, which I'll talk about in a minute. The reason we put a HDMI output on there for the monitoring is because you can just plug a computer monitor straight in. So even though the newer model is designed for SDI workflows, having that HDMI in there means you don't need to use a separate converter just to monitor the output. Now, it still works with USB webcam. You see there's a USB on the back there, but now it's 1080p webcam. So it's much better than the previous model, which was only 720p with a webcam.
I love how my comment section has now turned into like eBay for Atem Mini ISOs and Atem Mini Pros.
4 codec built in. So it'll now live stream direct to the platforms, to the online platforms. You don't need any computer software now. It's all self-contained in this one small unit. And you can use both the USB webcam and the live streaming at the same time. They both work at the same time.
That's cool.
You can also see we've got 2 power options on the rear panel there as well. There's the AC for regular power, plus there's now a broadcast 4-pin 12-volt DC power for backup power. Now you could use that with a separate power supply, and so you'd have 2 AC sources, one direct and one using the power supply. Or that could be a battery, so you could stay on air in a power pack.
So this looks more for their high-end switches.
Now let's turn it around.
Mainly I say that because from what I understand from what Grant said so far, it looks SDI only in terms of inputs.
A whole bunch of connections. So I'll plug in some power. I've got everything here. I've been plugging a lot of connections in today.
Oh, one thing I have just noticed is
Ethernet
the panel on the front. So I have the, and it looks like a different sort of OS is running on it. I have the original web presenter, and there definitely wasn't an on-air button on it. So it looks like the panel on the front has been sort of redesigned as well.
So I can get a nice source there and plug it all in. So you should be able to see that on the front panel. Now, it's all up and running.
Camera Squad, I won't read your comment out, but I agree with you, we all did.
Now it's included as standard, so you get that front panel as standard. Yeah, because it live streams internally, you really need the front panel for control. You know, it's got that dedicated on-air button, so you really need to see, you really need to have access to that. And there's also menus as well. So let's see how that works. So we've got a computer up on the rear screen, if we can switch across to that. And that's got YouTube and a web browser, so we can bring the unit on air. And that's all there is to it. Now you can also do this from the utility. I've got a Mac over here, which I've got plugged into the network. This is plugged into the network.
So imagine just having a rack of these new web presenters in your big studios. You feed whatever from your video hub, you feed whatever input you want in, and then all you got to do is just hit on air, and it's sending a stream. One could be sending a stream to YouTube, one could be sending one to Twitch, one to, you know, wherever you need Restream if you want to distribute it to multiple platforms. That's really nice. This is a cool. I'm glad that they updated the web presenter, because the original one was 720p as well. This one, I think Grant said at the beginning, is 1080p. Although he did say at one point Ultra HD, which I imagine is you can input Ultra HD, but then it just does the converting down to HD for you.
And the LCD also includes video monitoring and audio meters. There's a really nice big, if you look at the status of that LCD and you can get a bit of a close-up of that, you see a really big on-air indicator. I wanted an on-air indicator that's big enough that when you're looking across the room, at a rack, you can actually see which web presenters are on air. So that's why we needed that a bit larger. The input video standard's also on there as well. And there's also a time counter showing how long the stream's been running. It even includes a day count. So it's actually day, hours, minutes, and seconds. The network status is there as well. Now it also supports the phone tethering like the Atem Mini that I showed you before. If the Ethernet goes down, you can switch over. So you can plug in the phone, a mobile phone into the USB. The LCD will show what network is connections active, because there's actually a network indicator there, whether it's Ethernet or mobile data. So
Chris, the super source is on both the Extreme and the Extreme ISO.
I showed you. Now there's also, you'll notice on the front, there's a USB-C connection on the front panel. That also works as a webcam. So what's really interesting about that is you can basically walk up to the front of the unit and plug straight into it and monitor video with any software that works with a webcam. I was just using QuickTime Player before.
That's cool.
Now that's great for diagnostics. And the utility also works through USB or Ethernet. So you can walk right up to the front of a rack and plug into the unit and get both live video and change the settings, all in that one USB connection. Plus you can plug a phone into the front panel as well. So that USB also supports a phone, so you can plug the phone tethering in. So if you had an internet problem when you're running, you could actually go and plug your phone into the
So I wonder if you could use the USB-C on the back and the front to plug in two phones.
So of course, you know, what other things can you do? Well, one of the interesting uses you can use is with editing. Now, on the Mac over here that I was showing with DaVinci, I've got an Ultra Studio Mini monitor connected to the Mac. It converts the timeline out to live video for monitoring, which is how you generally would use that. When you're video editing, you want to see your user interface, but it's nice to have another video monitor showing the actual live video. Now, if I plug that into the Web Presenter HD, I can actually use it to stream to remote clients. So let's connect the Ultra Studio Mini monitor into the Web Presenter HD. Now, I've got that connection here, so I'll unplug the Atem Mini source and I'll plug in my Atem Mini monitor, and that'll switch over. Now, what we can do is go across to the timeline. So if we cut back to the timeline here, I've got the utility running, so I'll quit that, and I'll come back here to the timeline.
So I think this is quite clever from Blackmagic, but Grant's sort of demonstrating a remote workflow for, I guess, editors delivering to clients. So he's in DaVinci editing a timeline, and then he's taking the output from DaVinci into the web presenter and streaming it over the web to, let's say, a client for approval or like feedback. That's quite clever.
I mean, who knows what else it could be used for? It's really quite nice. So remember the two monitoring outputs we talked about before. Let's connect those up and we can see how those work. So if we come back to the web presenter here. Now I've plugged in the monitoring. If we can switch it up onto the screen here, and we can see what's going on. In fact, I'll plug the switcher back in. I'll unplug the timeline and plug back into the switcher so I can do some cutting.
This is a really neat design.
See, there it is.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like I love the Atem Mini Pro Extreme. It looks incredible. Oh, wow.
Broadcast streaming transmitter. So we really wanted to do something serious with the monitoring. So it includes a lot more information than you'd sort of expect on a simple monitoring out. Basically, it's got everything I needed when I worked in post-production. You know, I was putting in digital systems back in the 90s, and I needed...
So this is out of the HD monitoring SDI from the device. And so you could just put this up on a screen in your gallery and get all of the data that you need. So audio levels there, a preview. That's really nice.
Output directly. So obviously we've got a very large video display. It's got audio meters, and those audio meters, you can select the type of audio meter. The VU meter is what we're using here. It's got the correct ballistics. Now there's a title at the top left-hand side, and you can change that. So for example, if you had multiple web presenters doing different streams, you could have like YouTube primary, YouTube secondary, you could name them, and that title at the top left will change. And it really helps you keep track of which web presenters what if you're switching to monitoring. Like you could use...
Yeah, I can already see like 2 or 3 of these being purchased for our studio. We use Teradek Video Go's at the moment, but this is nice.
For streaming, which is like the front panel. There's a bunch of streaming details as well. The platform, the streaming standard, the quality, and the streaming key. Obviously, we're only showing part of the streaming key. You don't want the whole key, otherwise people will just hack your stream, so we don't want to do that. Now, we have a nice little area for video status, and that's all the video input information. So there's a film strip, so you can see the last 6 seconds of the inputs. You can see a recent history of what's been going on as the video source. There's also lots of technical data. There's the input video standard, there's colorimetry, time code, CRC check, Luma and Chroma bit activity. Now that's an interesting display.
It's almost too much information, but it's, I guess it's there because it's as I say, it's made more for the pro line. It makes sense. I just want to say thank you so much for all, where are we? 350 of you that are watching right now. Thanks for those of you that have shared, and most importantly, hit the like button as well. So if you are enjoying the stream, hit the like button. The whole idea of this, just while Grant's talking about some of these features, is to kind of do a watch along to this Blackmagic stream. Sometimes I know, especially for the beginners, some of the jargon words that are thrown out can be quite confusing. So if you've got any questions about what's been announced today, put them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. But we've seen, well, 3 products so far, and they have said there's something to do with cameras as well. So there's more to come.
Because it's more a more user-based feature than it is a sort of a technical-based feature for the video standard. Now, the audio input area is actually quite similar to the video area. You see there's an audio waveform that shows the last 6 seconds of the audio. So it's a recent history of what's been going on the sound. There's also details of the audio channel status word, and these details are encoded. These are the details, basically they're encoded with the audio data. Now we decode those bits and display the results. So you can see some of the information there, like sample frequency, emphasis, word length, origin, time of day, sample address. There's the aux bit status. Now not all products that do audio
Interesting comment from Sam there.
But generally, generally audio works without it.
Cool button on the front.
But there's a lot of information there. There's so much
Anyone
like
else see a cool button on the front of this device?
Some stuff's used like emphasis, but not all of it. The CRC is checked and displayed. There's also a bit activity indicator like the video, but this one's showing the entire AES kind of audio word, and it's a really nice way of seeing the audio bit depth. Like you can check to see if you've got 16, 20, or 24 bit audio. The 4 flag bits are also shown, and they're labelled with the V, U, C, and P above those. They're the actual flag bits. Now this is, there's also an embedded audio status indicator. Now these show you which channels in the SDI connection actually have data embedded into them. Now a lot of equipment can actually embed more channels.
Welcome to the chat, Matthew. If that's true, well done. You guys are pumping out some incredible kit.
You've got to set the stereo, so there's only actually audio on 2 of the channels. But this is a great way to see what audio channels are present in the SDI connection. And if there's a channel present, it'll be displayed as a P. So you can see that there. Now you'll also notice at the bottom there's actually 2 graphs. Now this is the same data rate and cache indicators that are on the Atem Mini, or the Atem Mini Pro I should say, or the Atem Mini Extreme now. But there's actually a graph of the last 60 seconds of the history of what's been going on. So the data rate for the last 60 seconds is really nice.
That's really nice because you can see if there's any fluctuations.
The data rate needed to encode this video. Now the data rate is really dependent on the quality and the frame rate and also the input video. So there's a lot of things that can actually affect how much data you're encoding to. So what you're seeing here is what the codec is actually generating. This is the data rate the codec's generating. So it's also showing you what data rate you need from the network to get a good quality stream. So that's a really nice indicator, and it's always on. Even if you're not live, on air, it still shows that. There's also the cache status for the last 60 seconds as well, and this shows you a lot about the quality of the internet connection, of the network connection.
So while Grant's going through this, this is technically an Atem Mini and a camera update. So I can see a few of you already putting some predictions in for what we're going to see with cameras. Let me know what you think. I actually have no idea what it could be.
Blackmagic Web Presenter HD is going to be available now, and it'll be $4.95. And it includes the front panel with the LCD menus now. It's got the live stream built into it to go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and more. It also supports webcam via USB. It includes this broadcast technical monitoring, and it supports full remote control via the software utility on Mac and Windows. It's only a third rack width, so you can get like 3 streaming channels in a single rack width if you.
Grant, what does the call button do?
But it really fits perfectly next to the ATEM TV Studio HD. It adds streaming to all our SDI-based switcher models. So we think it's going to be a really exciting product. So now I want to talk about Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. Now it's been received really well, and so like the 4K model, it's a true digital film camera. It's got a nice low light sensor in 6K. It's EF lens mount, so it works with lots of lenses. The large sensor is just perfect with EF lenses. There's so many Canon lenses around that have EF lens mounts, so it's very common to find great lenses with it. Records to internal.
Here we go, guys. Camera update. If you haven't already, share the broadcast, hit like. Let's see what they've got for us.
It includes Blackmagic RAW and Generation 4 color science. It's got a wonderful film gamma, supports ProRes recording. It's got Blackmagic OS. It's got a really big screen for a handheld camera. A lot of handheld cameras have tiny screens, but this is a big screen. Makes it really easy to focus. And there's tons of focus assist features. False color, histogram, zebra, frame guides, focus peaking, just lots of stuff. Plus the HDMI monitoring output includes overlays for film sets. You can set up like on-set monitoring, but it also includes the studio camera features that we been using with Atem Mini here. So it's really a production camera and a studio camera in the one design. It's very easy to use, very high quality, and it's getting used on some really high-end work, and kind of like what we hoped it would. So what does that mean? It's doing high-end digital film really well, and it's being rigged and used on high-end film projects. So we really started thinking about that and started thinking about a model that might have more features.
Morton says SDI support.
Could we put some of the features from the Ursa Mini Pro into the pocket camera design? And we've managed to do that. And so today we have a new model. It's a third camera in the range, and so I'll come across and I'll show you. The new model is called Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro, but it's actually a whole new design.
Just stick Pro.
It's slightly bigger, and because it's got a lot of new features included. So I'll bring one out and you can have a look and you can see for yourself. So
this is quite a long name now. Oh, but it is a lot bigger.
So you can see from a design point of view, it's very similar. It has similar controls, so it's very familiar to use. But because it's a member of the Pocket Cinema Camera family, and you can see how it fits in there. So I can show you the front. You can see it's really similar. If you can get a close-up of that, and you can see how that looks.
It looks like a Canon 5D.
On the rear side. It has the same, I'll turn it around there. It's got the same amazing 6K sensor. However, we've actually upgraded it to Generation 5 color science from the 12K camera. So it produces some amazing cinematic images. So I think the first thing you can really notice there is it's got a new LCD screen.
That's a tilting screen.
HDR screen. It also tilts up and down. So if I turn the camera on, I'll get the screen up.
That's my biggest bugbear with my 4K.
You can see really how bright that screen is. And so it's great for outdoor shooting. And I can tilt it up. And I can tilt it down, so you see there it is there.
There's no SDI, or I don't see an SDI on it.
So you've got a lot of control there. So if I tilt it down, you can shoot high up. You can hold it up high and shoot high up. And if I'm tilted down, I can shoot really low and get a nice sort of low view, Also,
but does it selfie mode?
It helps to give you better access to the menus. There. So you can see, and you can change the menus. So it's quite nice. So the other thing we've done is we've upgraded the battery, and now it's using an NPF 570 Sony style battery. Now it supports a lot longer battery life, which I think is important when you're recording the external discs. When you're running external discs, the camera powers the disc, so having more power really helps. So let me show you the battery in the bottom here. So it's the same type of battery door. There it is there, so it's a larger battery.
That's going to help.
There it is there, it'll power back up. So now what's the other exciting feature of this is the, I'll turn it back off, back on again, turned itself off. So what's also really nice is this new model has built-in ND filters. Now they're actually motor driven, so they are a little different to the Ursa Mini Pro ND filters. And if you look at the back here, we've got ND motor, the filter controls here. So let me remove the lens, and you can actually see them working if I take the lens off. So I'll do that. I always get nervous taking lenses off. So
yeah, no selfie mode, Levi.
Into the front
only tilt, it doesn't flip out. That's okay.
And you can see it.
I mean, I think you
change the filters.
Struggle Oh, there we go. We can see the ND filters working.
You can see them change.
The ND filters make it easier to shoot in bright sunlight.
And there's also an indication on the rear, so let me put the lens back on. Oops, there I am. So if I go around the back here, you can see the ND filters changing. Again, if you can get a shot of that. There's the ND filters there. And you can see there's actually also a status on the LCD to show you what filters are applied. So I think it's much more flexible. I'll turn the filters off. It's fun, I could actually just sit here.
There's going to be a lot of people that like that feature.
So it's great, of course, having the ND filters built in because it's much more portable solution. This is a portable camera, but it gives you total control of the shutter angle when you're in bright conditions because you can just pull those ND filters in, cut down the light. Now there's also support for an an optional electronic viewfinder. So there's a separate viewfinder that you can purchase and add to the camera if you need it. It's called the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera Pro EVF, and it bolts right on top of the camera, right there. So let's have a look. I'll show you the EVF. I'll bring it out. You can see it's super tiny there. So you can see there it is there.
So there must be some sort of interface on the top of the camera now then.
There it is there, and you can see the underside. That's where it plugs into the camera.
Yeah. There it is.
And you can see the lens there, and so I've got a really nice glass lens. Yeah, it's a professional.
So that opens up a world for accessories. You might be able to get screens that mount on top now. We've got the EF lens as well. That's quite clever from Blackmagic.
It's very accurate. The focus, it's really clean and very clear. In fact, underneath, there's a focus adjustment on the bottom there, so you can adjust it. Now, because it's a professional viewfinder, we've actually also got eyepieces that are included with it. I'll bring them out. There's 4 eyepieces in total. So you've actually got some options. So you've got an eyepiece that's actually installed on it. Then there's a slightly larger version of that. Then there's also a very large one that's left and right-eyed. So you've got a few different options there. So I'll line them up there. And they come with it. So you don't have to buy them separately. Now the viewfinder is really easy to install. You just unscrew the cover on the top of the camera and then you can install it on top. So let me show you that. I'll unscrew the
just while Grant's doing that, Alfredo asked, did he say how many stops for NDI? I didn't hear him say, but I did see him cycle through 3. So, or I thought I saw him cycle through 3.
Here's the cover there. I'll just show you.
So maybe that will be in the tech specs on the website. Check that out for the exact number of stops.
You can get a shot of that. You can see where the viewfinder plugs in. So all I need to do is plug the viewfinder in. Probably should turn the camera off when I do this. And I'll tilt it up. There it is. I can tighten it down. Just finger tighten it. And there it is, it's installed on the camera. A shot there. Now it tilts up and down like I was just doing to install it. So you can see you've got a huge range. So you can imagine with a nice big eyepiece on there, you know. How nice
that looks smart.
Now the focus adjustment is under there. And if I turn the camera around, you can see, I have to get a shot of that with the focus adjustment. You can see the lens move when I adjust the focus.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that? So there it is there. So that's under there. Now there's a focus pattern built in to the camera to allow you to get really accurate focus. So you just go into the monitor menu and you can access the focus chart from there. It's a really bright OLED display. So the sensor will, it's got a sensor on the back, so it turns the OLED on and off when you're not using it. And the main LCD will also turn off when you're using the viewfinder to save power. And you can see you can change the viewfinders, the eyepieces out. I'm actually left-eyed, so I like the left eye eyepiece. And so it's a real professional solution. Now, if we look at the side of the camera, you can see we still have the SD card slots on the side.
The eyepieces seem to be getting a lot of love in the chat.
So you've got the same
Levi's a fan. Few others view as well. Someone did make the point which made me chuckle. Now it's a purse camera, not a pocket camera. Yeah, it's a bit beefier now, isn't it?
We still have the HDMI output for monitoring. We've got the USB for recording to external flash disks. We've got the headphone connector. We've also got the mic, the video type mic input connector, but we now have an extra XLR connector. So you can plug in 2 separate microphones.
Yeah, that's nice.
And they're both phantom powered, or you can of course plug in from professional audio gear. You can actually plug stereo XLR sources now. And then, you know, as far as phantom power goes, the new battery's got lots of power for the battery. Now, the other thing we've got is we have a new battery grip. You know, if you're doing very long shoots,
you're going to need one.
You know, it's nice to have a battery grip. It's called the Blackmagic Pocket Camera Pro Grip. Sorry, the Blackmagic Pocket Camera Battery Pro Grip. I always get that wrong for some reason. I've got some neural damage that's causing issues with the name. Now it holds 2 extra batteries, but it's a little different.
Grant just shortened the name.
It supports the same large batteries.
I'm surprised the Atem Mini Extreme wasn't called the Atem Mini Pro Extreme ISO.
You can see, and it's a bit different. It doesn't displace the internal battery. So there it is there. So what you can do is install it on the bottom of the camera, and it won't displace. You're adding 2 extra batteries, and you keep the battery in the camera. So I think this is a better design. Now, if you see the top of it, how it does that, it's got these power pins there, and that's how that talks to the camera. So there's a spot on the battery tray also to support. There's a cover on the bottom of the camera there, which I'll unscrew.
I mean, you can see they've really thought about not just the form factor, but how it all fits together and worked both for the EF lens, both for the viewfinder and the battery grip.
On the bottom of the camera.
It looks great.
Now, there's actually a spot on the battery tray to store that little cover I just took off, so you don't lose it. And then if you take the battery grip off, you can then reinstall that on the bottom. So let's put the battery grip on, and you can have a look.
So, someone said, you forgot to mention the price. No, we just haven't been told it yet, but it will come. And I have no idea how much it would actually cost.
There it is. It's all on the camera. Turn the camera back on.
Put your predictions in the chat now.
3 batteries in the camera. So it's a monster when you've got that installed. Look at that. And the battery tray slides out, so you can slide the batteries out and you can change them. And the camera still runs, it won't turn off. So, and you can uninstall it by just running the screw thread back out again. And then you can take it off. So you can really just add it and take it off as you go.
Oh, that's clever.
It's really nice. And so
I think what I understood of what Grant just said there is, if you needed to, you could swap out your battery grips without the camera turning off. $2,495 will be the price. That's incredible.
The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera Pro EVF will be priced at $495, and that's also available now and it's in stock. And the Blackmagic Pocket Camera Battery Pro Grip is priced at $145, and that's also available now. Now the battery grip is sold without the batteries because these, NP F570 batteries, you can get them anywhere, so you can source those yourself. So we think the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro is a really great addition to the family. You can see we have 3 great cameras depending on the kind of work you're doing. They're all professional digital film cameras. They can be used for all kinds of work, and they're very, very portable. So they're amazing. So one last thing we have just before we go, we also have a software update that's due. It's not quite ready yet, but it's coming soon. So what we're doing is, one of the things I didn't show you on the back is we have new software for the 4K and the 6K Pocket Cinema cameras. Now all the cameras get a new RGB histogram. So the current luminance only histogram doesn't always show you clipped images. If you clip it in a single color, sometimes you can't tell because it's not clipping in the luminance. So the new RGB histogram fixes that. And so that's really nice. So if I turn on the 4K camera here, you can see, we'll get a bit of a close-up. You can see
guys, once this stream ends, I'm going to hang on for 10 minutes and we can talk through what we've seen in the update. You can put any questions in the chat. And then I will have a video coming that updates or rounds up the updates that the Atem Mini has had on my channel in the next week or so. I want to try and get it out tomorrow if I can, but I got a bit on. So look out for that. But yeah, stick around because we'll be going over what we've seen in this so far.
All the color science and all the models. So both the 4K and the 6K models will get the new Generation 5 color science. So all the models will have the latest color science from actually the 12K camera research that we've been doing. So it's really exciting. Now that software update will be free. It supports the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 4K, the 6K, and it'll upgrade the new 6K Pro as well. It's called Camera Update 7.3, and it'll be available in about a month or so. So we're still doing a lot of debugging. Obviously with COVID, it's a bit tough to get things through QA because everyone's everywhere. Every 5 minutes there's some other breakout. So we're working as hard as we can to get that out the door, and that'll be a free update. So that's about all we have for today. So I think we've got some really nice switches with the new Atem Mini Extremes. They're very powerful. We have an amazing professional cinema camera with the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. It's so small when you consider how much we've actually built into it. It's incredible. We have an amazing streaming solution with this new Blackmagic Web Presenter HD. It's the broadcast transmitter for the streaming world. So I think it's really nice. And I've got to thank all the engineers who've worked so hard on these new products at Blackmagic. There's
Stick around, we'll be going through everything that we've heard in the Blackmagic announcement. If you haven't yet, hit the like button if you like the stream so far. Thank you so much to everyone who shared it out as well. We're going to be talking Atem Mini Extreme. I've got to get these names right now. The Atem Mini Extreme, the Atem Mini Extreme ISO, the brand new Web Presenter HD, and we'll talk a little bit about the Blackmagic Pocket, the name that is too long to remember, but the new one.
Again, please remain safe, and I hope it won't be too much longer. We'll be back at trade shows talking again. I love talking as these videos get rather long. So take care, and we'll talk soon, and take care. Bye.
That is one of the things that I absolutely love about Grant. I mean, you can see from the beginning of that presentation, he's straight into it. Within about 30 seconds, he had announced that you can now stream from the Atem Mini from your mobile by tethering. There's no messing around. There's no, this is how, like Apple does now, this is how well we've done in the last year and how we're beating Microsoft or whatever. He just gets into it, goes into all the detail, and then says, stay safe, bye. Love that. Oh, well, yeah, we've seen a lot. I'm going to concentrate more now that we're back, concentrate more on the comments. Chris, no worries. Thanks you for doing the stream. No problem at all. If you've got questions, tag me in them on the comments. But let's go through it. So first thing that was announced was a software update. And I believe this is rolling out to, I think Grant said the Pro and the ISO model. So if you've got an Atem Mini Pro or an ISO, you will now be able to tether your mobile devices and stream off of that. And the thing that really jumped out at me about that was when he demonstrated by pulling out the network cable and then putting it back in and pulling out the phone, and the stream was uninterrupted, which means you can use that as a kind of internet backup slash what we would call failover. So what you could do, as far as I can see from that, is when you're in places of bad network connection or Wi-Fi that you're trying to stream on, plug in your phone, and if the network connection drops out, it will use your stream's data as a backup to keep the stream alive. And that's massive. That's awesome. So that's a software update. And I heard him say the ISO, and I'm pretty sure he said the Pro as well. I don't think he said the Mini. But if you've got a Mini Pro or an ISO, that will be coming. And obviously that's available on the new Atem Mini Extreme and the Extreme ISO too. Pastry Elite says, do we think the Extreme ISO will output 4K? From what I understood, everything that was announced today was outputting 1080p. So that includes the Extreme ISO, and the Web Presenter HD. Although the Web Presenter HD does have an Ultra HD, a 12G SDI input, I believe, Grant said. Are you going to upgrade? Chris, I've got to try these out, haven't I? I've got to try them out, and you can absolutely expect to see review videos coming on my channel of all of these new devices and features. Let me keep rattling on with what some of the new features were within this Atem Mini Pro then. Sorry, not Atem Mini Pro, Atem Mini Extreme. There's too many names. So we had the Atem Mini Extreme has 8 HDMI inputs. Let's see if let's see if I can get some. Maybe they've updated their website. Do we think Blackmagic have updated their website? We can have a look. Nah, don't worry. So it's got 8 HDMI inputs, 2 HDMI outputs. Let's see if they have actually doing this, and then I can always put this up on screen. And yeah, they have already updated their website. So let's go through the tech specs then. I can rattle these off for you. We have got the Extreme has a total of 8 video inputs, 2 video outputs. So you've now got 2 HDMI outputs, which was a huge ask for that people kept on asking Blackmagic for. They've answered that. The other thing that they've answered was everyone was calling for a headphone output. They've given us that now. So it also comes with not just being able to listen to the output audio, you've got your own headphone mix as well. So if you want to solo a channel just to hear that channel while everything else is going out in the stream as normal, I believe you've been able to do that now with the update. And that is on the Extreme and the Extreme ISO. Some of you guys saying, oh no, there's no website update. I've got it. So if you go to the Blackmagic website, I'll try and ping it up on screen. I just have to do it through this computer, annoyingly. But yeah, if you go to the website, it has just updated. The other things that I noticed straight away, I thought I saw it and I was right. There was 6 programmable macro buttons on the front of the Atem Extreme and on the ISO as well towards the right hand side, which is great for those of you that don't have Stream Decks or other control surfaces, because it means you can trigger some more of those things, or trigger those macros, which is fantastic. Let me see. You've got 2 audio inputs. You've got the audio output for headphones. You've got all of the 8 HDMI inputs are all downscaled, so you can put in, let's say, a 1080p 60 feed, and they'll all be cross converted to whatever you set your ATEM standard to. Or you could put in a 720p and it will be upscaled to let's say 1080p 30 if that's what you've decided to set your ATEM to. So it's good you've got all the up down cross conversion on all of those. I'm just looking at the buttons. Let's see if I can get I'm working with way too many screens here. Let's see. Right, let's see if we can just go over to Blackmagic's website and oh, I've lost my browser. And then I can walk through with you the features that I'm seeing on my... Come on. There we go. The website's being a bit slow because everyone is trying to get on there. So let's go through the Extreme first. It looks fantastic. In terms of some of these buttons, look at the front of it. There's the macro buttons that I spotted in the beginning. Then you've got these source select buttons, which really help because, as I was saying, like there's some times where, let's say, you want to bring on a picture-in-picture, but you want to be able to flick the sources in the picture-in-picture. Well, you can do that now because you've got these source buttons here. And of course, the other thing you've got in this new ATEM Extreme, you've got 2 DVEs, I believe. 2 DVEs. So you can do 2 picture-in-pictures. You've also got Super Source. So for those of you that don't know, Super Source is in their larger range of switches as well, which allows you to, a bit like a news show, have almost 4 picture-in-pictures on the screen. And so you can have, let's say you bring in 4 remote guests, you can have them all on screen like a news show, have a background or even a frame that goes over them so that it looks all professional. Grant did a demo of that. It looks fantastic. We use it a lot in the bigger switches that we have. It's so powerful. So I'd love to see, or I hope that it works the same way it does in Blackmagic's bigger ATEM range, because if it does and it's in something this size at $995 for the Extreme, $1,295 for the Extreme ISO. Right, let's take a look at some of your comments. The website homepage updated, but not the product page. A minute, I found it. Someone says a bit disappointed with the Blackmagic 6K Pro, no box style design, still using the EF mount, very few upgrades. We'll get onto the camera in a bit. I prefer doing stuff on the Atem Minis because that's where my knowledge is, more than the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras. But I think it's a good upgrade. Alex, is the phone tethering added to all models of the Atem? I thought I heard Grant in the presentation say the Pro and the ISO, and obviously it's now going to be in the Extreme models as well. I don't think he said the original Atem Mini, which, to be honest, would make sense because the original Atem Mini is just a USB out. There's no internal encoder for streaming. So that does make sense if that is the case. And that will be a software update, which might even be available now. Let's keep going on here, see if there's any nice pictures that we can show. There we go. Get you a better idea for the actual physical specifications that you've got there. A lot of buttons on the front. The other buttons that we have there that are new additions are the camera control buttons. They're the ones that are along here. So you've got camera control, especially if you do have Blackmagic Pocket cameras. So now that's the 6K Pro and the 4K. This will allow you to change things like iris, and one of the great features that they displayed was the ability to change focus and actually autofocus the cameras. So imagine having an 8-camera setup. I would never be able to get an 8-camera Blackmagic setup around here, but imagine just having a 2 or 3 Blackmagic Pocket Cinema setup here, and you sit in. Well, the easiest way to focus them now is just go focus, 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 and it just autofocuses all of them. That's awesome. What else was added? So you've got the DVEs, another Atem media pool. So now the Extreme and the ISO have 2 media players, sorry, not Paul, and I think he said 40 media slots and 2 media players, which makes life a lot easier. And then we haven't even spoken about the 2 USBs on the back. You can see there on the back of the device. So you've got 2 USBs, a USB-A and a USB-B. And Grant gave a couple of examples of what you can do with these. Number one, it now allows you, thankfully, to plug, let's say, USB-A into your Mac and take that to Zoom, and plug a hard drive into USB-B and do recording at the same time. That was a big issue that a lot of people had. The other thing it allows you to do, especially you're going to want this if you are using the ISO, is you can plug in multiple SSDs. So you can plug 2 SSDs into A and B and do continuous recording. Or you can do, I guess you could do both at the same time if you use a USB, like a dongle or a dock. So you plug one USB dongle into A and plug 2 or 3 SSDs into that, and then plug a USB cable into your Mac for Zoom. I was pretty sure Atem Mini did its own internal encoding and processing. I mean, that was advertised pretty heavily, you sure? The Atem Mini doesn't have a streaming engine built in, as in you can't stream over the Ethernet to YouTube. The Atem Mini Pro and the ISO have that. If you want to stream with the Atem Mini, you need to take that USB into a Mac. I'm doubting myself now, but I'm pretty sure I've had too many models to remember what each one the differences are, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one. Oh, still only 20 media slots? Oh, I thought he said 40 at one point. That's a shame. Let's just check that. Gotta remember what computer. So where would that be? That'd be media. Here we go. 2 media players. Yes, you're right. You are spot on. 20 with fill and key. And they accept PNGs. I tend to use PNGs the most, because obviously then you get that alpha channel as well. What else? I'm just trying to look at the back, see if there's anything else really to point out. We've talked about the headphone jack. The 2 mic inputs are the same as before. We talked about the 2 USBs, and the ATEM control is the same. Really, the other new buttons on there, we've talked about the select bus at the top. There's a couple more new buttons here for now that you've got 2 DVEs. So you can have a side-by-side, similar to as you'd see on sort of news programs again. And of course, there's a super source function built in as well. And I think, actually, that's what these buttons down here are, super source. So you can see there's that super source button there. We'll bring that on. Okay, last few questions. XLR would have made life easier. Yeah, but from what I can see, Blackmagic are sort of the way they're going here. This really is, Grant said at one point, this is like the Atem Mini Extreme is more powerful than their SDI version of the Atem Mini Extreme, which I can't remember the exact name of it. So it seems like they're creating those 2 product paths. If you want to stick to an all HDMI based workflow, you cannot get more power than what we've seen today in the Extreme and the Extreme ISO. And then they've already got products if you want to move over to an SDI workflow, and then you're going on sort of the step level up from like an Atem television studio to all the way up to an Atem 8K constellation, and you just can't get better than that. That thing's a beast. Dame says, "What can you just go through what the select bus buttons are again?" Sure. There's 2 things that I want to cover. I'll do the select bus, and then I'll talk about the 2 HDMI outs, because I think that's important as well. And we'll talk about the multi-view. So the select bus, if I just zoom in here, that's up here. And think of it a little bit like a video router or matrix. You've got your sources on the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 camera inputs, media players. I can't make out what the other ones are. So these are sources, and these are destinations along the bottom. So what it's saying is, let's say, for example, you want to do a picture-in-picture. And so to do that, you're going to need to use your upstream key 1 or your DVE 1. But at some point, you're going to have to say what you want to be in that picture-in-picture. Now, with the current Atem Minis, you have to go into the upstream key, go over to DVE, click on fill source, and then choose the input. These buttons do that for you. So all you do is on the bottom row, you select DVE1, and then on the top row, you select what you want to go into DVE1. So you can, with these buttons, switch between the inputs live as well, which is great. So you can switch or change in real time what's in that picture-in-picture. I hope that explained that. Dame asked that. Then the other question, what I just saw, was about the HDMI output. So as far as I heard, these are two complete independent HDMI outputs. And actually there's controls for HDMI 1 on here. So you've almost got a switcher inside a switcher. So you do your switching, your main switching here for, let's say, your YouTube. And then let's say you've got to feed a screen with and switch between, on the screen behind, you've got to switch between a camera and another source coming in on HDMI 2, which might be a PowerPoint presentation. You can use your controls here to switch that screen, and that will come out of HDMI 1, or I can't see if they're A and B. No, it is 1 and 2. HDMI 2, I think that's programmable as well. I was trying to get that while talking as well on the feed. I think that's programmable in the software, and obviously most people are going to want to use that as a multi-view, and the multi-view is the same multi-view that is in the highest tier ATEM that Blackmagic make it in the ATEM 8K constellation. Let's see if I've got we can get a picture of that multi-view. I would imagine they probably haven't updated these pages. No, not really. Oh no, there's a few. I want to try and show you the multi-view, because it's now a 16 grid multi-view if you want it. I think it's a fully customizable multi-view. Let's see. That's the advanced panel. Might be in there. It'll probably be in the getting started or the workflow. Let's see if they've got any screenshots here to show you. No, let's try workflow. If not to worry. But yeah, you've got 16 squares, 4x4 grid of multi-view now if you want it. Fully programmable, so you can choose what inputs and outputs are in that multi-view. You're right, looked it up on the website, Pro and Extreme models only. I had some misinformation floating around in my head. Okay, cool, glad I could correct that. Can you please brief the 6K and 6K Pro, only major differences? I will do that in a second. So I want to wrap this up because I don't want it to go on for too long. So there's a lot, so much stuff in this, we could really keep going. In total, you've really got 6 DVEs because you've got the 4 DVEs on the super source plus the 2 standard DVEs. 16 grid multi-view, 4 chroma keys built into both of these, the Extreme ISO and the Extreme. And Grant gave a little bit of a demonstration about what you could do with that, and I think he's spot on. He's exactly right with this. You can now create virtual sets, and what I mean by that is stick a green screen behind you. Make sure the green screen fills all of your camera angles. So this is camera 1. We've got camera 2, let's say, is over here. I can still be chroma keyed out. Then what you do is you create still backgrounds that are the same, basically, the same sort of angle. So let's say I'd have a still background with the Olympic Stadium behind me. And then I'd have a still background with the left side of the Olympic Stadium behind me so that it matches that camera angle. And you can now use the 4 chroma keys to cut around your cameras, and the background changes in real time as well. So you start making this virtual set. Now it's not going to track if you move the cameras because it hasn't got real time tracking. But if your cameras are on tripods, it's going to look great. And I'm very excited to try that out. So you've got 4 chroma keys in there, 2 media players. I think I was noting stuff down during the stream. I think that's pretty much the stuff that I noted down on that. And then, of course, on top of that, if you've got the ATEM ISO, or the ATEM, I'm going to call this the Atem Mini Extreme ISO, sorry. Don't forget, you've then got 9, this is mental, 9 recordings now. You've got your 8 HDMI ISO inputs, all being recorded at HyperDeck High. And then you've got your program output being recorded as well at whatever rate is selected in the live streaming tab. So if you set that as HyperDeck High as well, you've got all 9 outputs or all 9 feeds being recorded at HyperDeck High, which is around 70 megabits a second. So you're going to need a good SSD to keep up with those speeds and those data rates. So don't skimp on those. You're going to want to get, if you are going for an ISO, you're going to want to get a good SSD which has a fast write rate. You can do the maths really. So do 70 megabits times times 9. Give yourself a little bit of headroom for all the audio files as well, and the DaVinci file, and then you can work out roughly how much speed you're going to need on your drive. Can you put any videos in the media pool? No, I was really sad to see that. I would have loved even image sequences to do things like stingers. But no. Where's the USB-C? There's 2 USB-Cs on the back. In the Atem Mini section, there's what you are looking for about multi-view. Okay, come on then. Let's see if I can find it quickly for you. Thank you for pointing that out. Let's go down, see if I can find it about the multi-view. No, that's not it. That's editing. I can't see it unless I'm being really blind. This is SuperSource, by the way. This is a great example of SuperSource. So you've got 4 feeds coming in, and then you can now take those 4 feeds, up to 4 feeds with SuperSource, and crop them, place them, pitch a bit like a picture-in-picture, but you can have up to 4 with either a background behind them or a frame in front of them. So this is what they've done here. They've created their own custom frame, and then they put the video behind the frame of the 4 things. So the Atem Mini can now do this. Amazing. Here's the multi-view. Thank you so much for pointing it out. This looks like the old multi-view though, because you can have up to 16 inputs now. This looks like the original one with the data. But thanks for sending that over. So we talked about can motion graphics lower thirds be used on it? Yes, if you bring them in externally, because you've got 8 inputs now, you can definitely bring in a key and a fill. So one thing that you could do with this, now that you've got more inputs, get yourself something like a Hyperdeck Mini, Hyperdeck Mini Studio. Get 2 SDI to HDMI converters and take a key and a fill out of the Hyperdeck Mini, convert those to HDMI, put them into 2 inputs on your Atem Mini, and you've now got graphic or video with alpha channel. So you can render out lower thirds and things like that with alpha channel, and you'll be able to get those in. Also, you could pick yourself up I'm not going to get it out because it's buried in, I don't know if you can see it over there, but there's an Ultra Studio 4K Mini that has key and fill SDI on as well, and you can now feed that into the Atem as long as you convert SDI to HDMI. Right, I want to cover the last 2 products, which were let's see if we can find it, the Web Presenter HD, and thankfully they've upgraded this because it hasn't had an update for a while, and it looked like a really nice update. So let's see if I can find it. What would it be in streaming and encoding? Web Presenter HD. So I was right. Inputs up to, so the input can be 2160 60p. So you can have a 4K feed going in at 60 frames, but I believe the max you're going to get output wise is 1080p 60. Let's see if we can get a confirmation. It's also got the 5G and 4G tethering on there, webcam output as well. I loved this, the built-in monitoring. That is fantastic. So if you look here, if we go on the tech specs for a second, £389 in the UK. So there's a monitoring SDI here now. And so you plug that in, display it on a screen, and you've got this fantastic real-time display of all the information that you could need about the stream. Love that. That is... I want them to do that, but for a Hyperdeck. So I want the Hyperdeck Mini to have a monitor out and be able to tell me how much time is left on a VT, what the clip list, everything. Please, Blackmagic, if you are watching this, do exactly as you've done on here, but on the Hyperdeck, because that will be so useful. Here we go. So the inputs you can have anything from 720p 50 up to 2160 60p, and then the RTMP outputs that you can have 720p 25 up to 1080p 60. That's impressive. No 4K. You don't see it on B&H yet. No 4K support, but to be honest, that's not too surprising. They've got a 4K line, and if you're working in 4K, you're going to be working in SDI. So that isn't much of a surprise for me. I said at the beginning of the stream, might we see a 4K ATEM? I guess they are reserving 4K for now to their professional, well, I can't even call it professional line. The Atem Mini has so many features, so many high-grade features in it now. I'm talking, of course, about the Atem Mini Extreme. that you can't call all of Blackmagic's other products professional without also calling that professional. So I don't know how they differentiate between the two, because the Extreme, you could put, here we go. You could put the Atem Mini Extreme ISO under a table, connect an Atem 1ME control surface, a camera control surface, and a couple of hyperdecks hidden under, hide the hyperdecks under the table. And I don't think anyone would notice that you're not using an Atem broadcast 4ME or even an Atem 8K constellation. The power in that Atem Extreme is impressive. I've got to call it by its real names. Atem Mini Extreme, sorry. I think we've covered mostly what this does. If you've got any questions about this, put it in the chat now. I've got about 5-10 minutes left on the stream. Can we connect phones through HDMI? Yeah, you can do that now with the Atem Mini. You can get iPhone or Android, you can get adapters out to HDMI and then use apps like Filmic Pro, I believe, allows you to get a clean HDMI out from your camera into the Atem Mini. I'm just scrolling back through the comments to see if there's any good ones that I've missed in terms of questions. If you still have a question, put them in the chat now. And then I'm going to go over, unless there's any more questions about the Blackmagic Web Presenter, which is a fantastic product. It really is. I'm going to go over and end on, I won't be able to talk too much on it because I only have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. But let's look at the Blackmagic Cinema Pocket. It's too long. The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, I've forgotten the rest. 6K Pro, is it? Let's have a look. The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K Pro, super duper whooper looper. Pretty much. I mean, I think it looks... I saw in the comments as they were announcing it live, there was a bit of divisiveness. Some people saying they don't like the big bulky look. I think it looks great. I think I said it reminds me a bit like almost like a C, one of the Canons, the C, is it C920 or whatever. You want something a bit bulky and with a bit of feel, especially when you're doing professional work like this. The the mount at the top, God, I can't get my words today. The lens, the viewfinder, even the lens, is a great addition. That's the main additions that you spoke about. Obviously, you've got the tilting screen. Doesn't flip out, but tilts up and down, which is great for avoiding the sunlight as well. That was my biggest bugbear with the 4K, is that you can't move the screen. Exact same sensor as the 6K, I believe so. I believe the internals. Oh, although he did say something about the color science, but I think the sensor, let's see. Let's go into the tech specs. So you can see the tech specs here. The effective sensor size. We could compare that with the current 6K. I believe it is the same. Still a Super 35 sensor. So it's not like the Blackmagic 12K sensor that they have in the Ursa 12K, where I think they completely redesigned that custom as well. It does seem to still be using the 6K sensor. And you can, of course, record 6K up to 50 frames. I mean, I've actually forgotten about the other additions. So there was the viewfinder on the top, the battery grip as well. They showed the ND filters were really nice. Let's see if they've got any workflow images of that. Lightweight carbon fiber, 3 great models. I think this is just general. Let's see if they've got anything with the ND filters. There we go, built-in ND filter. Do they say how many? 2, 4, and 6 stops. So it was so you got up to 6 stops of ND. You can see the difference there. Come on, play again. There's 2. Go to 4, and then 6. So this is fantastic if you are shooting in bright sunlight. You can whack 6 stops of ND on there, and then you don't have to put your shutter speed right up. See, now I wasn't live. That you've moved on. What else? Just a new RGB histogram, I think, is the software update. They did say a new software update for those current 6K and 4K owners. There was some new color science, I think, in there as well. It's hard to find because what they do is they mix, especially in these front pages, they mix all of the models. They do that with the ATEM as well. But if you go into the tech specs, then you can break out each model here. So let's see. Yeah, there is this new connection at the top for the viewfinder, which is nice. You've got a battery grip as well. And Grant made a point about the battery grip is really nice. It doesn't include the internal, so it means that you can keep one battery in the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. That is a mouthful. And then put two brand new, they're using the Sony batteries now rather than the Canon batteries, which they are better, they last longer. You can put two of those in the battery grip and effectively get 3 batteries power still. But then, let's say you want to do a hot swap of battery grip, you can quickly take one off, put one back on, and because you've still got a battery in the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, I don't think it powers down. I think it can just stay on, which is quite nice. RF to share lenses with Canon R cameras. I didn't see that. I think is this not an EF mount? Where is it? I think it's still a Canon EF mount on the front. I don't think you can change it to, as far as I know, I don't think you can change it to any others like a Micro Four Thirds or Sony E mount or anything like that. Oh, you wish it had an RF mount. I read your comment wrong. I apologize. Yeah, I won't go. I'm going to hold my hands up here and say I'm not going to go too much into the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro, simply because my knowledge is not on the cameras. My knowledge is more around Blackmagic's ATEM switcher range. So I'll probably end up saying something wrong if I go into the camera side of things. I would love to explore them more, and I definitely would like to get my hands on one of those 6K Pros because they look fantastic. But yeah, I'm more of a switcher guy than a camera guy, so I don't want to say anything wrong. Right, last 5 minutes. If you've got any questions, ping them in about anything we've seen today. As I say, I'm going to do my best to create a video this week that recaps all of the announcements for the Atem Mini range. So I'm talking about the software updates to the Atem Mini Pro and the ISO, the Atem Extreme announcement, and the Atem Extreme ISO. There'll be a video coming up on my channel that condenses everything we've seen today. And fills you in on everything you need to know about those. So that video will be dropping very soon. When you see it, please do give it a like. If you haven't already yet and you've enjoyed this stream, please do give this stream a like. It really does something with the YouTube gods, apparently. And yeah, just thanks for joining me. Let me know in the chat if you found this useful, fun, because Blackmagic are becoming the new Apple when it comes to keynotes and things like that. They're pumping new products out regularly, and they're doing a lot of these keynotes. And I enjoyed today. So I'm up for doing it again. Let me know in the chat if you guys are. Thanks, Alex. Cheers, Ryan. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you want to do something like this again. Also, last thing to mention is there's a bunch of new videos on my channel from this week. I just did a mini series, things like how to add live chat comments as an overlay on using your Atem Mini. So if you're streaming to places like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, a way of getting the comments from your live viewers onto and as an overlay on your stream. So I've released a video about that this week. You can go and watch that. I also released a video about how you can work with remote guests in the cloud. And I also released a video about streaming Zoom calls to multiple platforms. So 3 new videos this week. If you want to check those out, feel free. They're on the channel as well. Thanks for all your efforts. Cheers, Transform Global. Really appreciate it. Tom says, thanks so much. Great job. Awesome. It looks like generally you guys liked it, so hey, maybe we'll do it again sometime. I'm off to now divulge this information, and I'm off to go try and get an Atem Mini Extreme ISO, basically. I'm sure you guys will be doing the same. Feel free, if you want to stick in the comments and try and flog your old Atem Mini Pros and Atem Mini Pro ISOs, you're more than welcome. But until next time, guys, keep an eye on the channel. A new video will be released recapping all of this. And yeah, hit the like button, leave a comment on the video. And once you've done all that, make sure you subscribed. And I will see you on the next one.